Welcome to Ku-ring-gai Council Public Forum. The Public Forum is an opportunity to share your views on any issues on the Council meeting agenda and on other general matters that are important to you. It provides an opportunity for councillors to hear directly from the community, understand the needs and concerns of constituents, and make more informed decisions. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to outline a few procedures in relation to this evening's public forum. I want to remind everyone that this is a public forum and we must all be respectful of each other. I remind councillors of their oath or affirmation of office made under section 233A of the Act and printed at the front of the business paper. All attendees must comply with the Code of Meeting Practice and other relevant council codes, policies and procedures. This meeting is being recorded and the webcast will be published to Council's website. Councillors, council staff and speakers will be shown on camera. Attendees must refrain from engaging in disorderly conduct, publicly alleging breaches of the Council's Code of Conduct, or making other potentially defamatory statements. Any statements made and actions taken by individuals are those of the individuals making them and are not endorsed or supported by Council. Councillors, council staff and members of the public must ensure that mobile phones are turned to silent during the forum. Councillors and council staff must declare and manage any conflict of interest that they may have about any item of business that is on the agenda this evening. A few reminders for our speakers this evening. Speakers cannot use or present any props, audio or visual material. Any written material must be lodged when registering or handed to staff. Each speaker has 3 minutes to address council. A chime will sound when you have 30 seconds left to speak. If you have a lot to say, I encourage you to submit a written submission. Each councillor may ask a maximum of 2 questions. Speakers are under no obligation to answer, but if you do, please limit it to 1 minute. Speakers cannot ask questions of councillors or council staff. So I'll start with disclosures of interest by councillors. Are there any conflict of interest declarations for councillors? No. Okay. Can't see any. Now we will start with the items on the agenda and then we will move to the general business items. And I acknowledge we have 3 written submissions that have been received. So the first item on the agenda is Merrill Minute 2. Spanish moss, emerging risks and needs for continued monitoring. Jill Green, representing STEP. Oh, Jill, first up. And Jill will be speaking for.
Right. So good evening, everybody. Good evening, councillors and Mayor. So I'm speaking in support of the mayoral motion, and I thank Mayor Kay for the interest in the issue of Spanish moss. I'm president of STEP, and in recent years our members and people living and working near our bushland have expressed concern about the increasing prevalence of Spanish moss in our streets and reserves. I don't know if you all know what it looks like. I have got a sample, but I'm not allowed to have props.
You can if you have permission. So if you have a sample, I'm happy for you
not
to...
here. That's in my bag, yeah. There's severe examples of infestations in places like Warrigal Road in South Turramurra, Grayling Reserve in West Pymble, and Chalice Avenue in Turramurra. I can give lots of other examples. In my street, there's a maple with lots of Spanish moss. I'm told it has sentimental value, as their grandmother put it there many years ago. In recent years, it has spread via wind and birds, probably the main reasons. But it does have produced seed, which of course disperses with wind. And it's overwhelmed fiddle trees next door to the place that I was referring to in the maples. It's so bad the owners decided the trees had to be chopped down because there was no way you could remove it from the trees. Also now, in the same street again, the crepe myrtles in the street are covered in it, and very concerning, high up in a Norfolk Island pine, it's impossible to reach. It starts with a few wisps high up in the tree, and now it's getting bigger and denser, and of course they're out of reach, so there's nothing can be done without spending a lot of money. So as the Mayor of the Minute explains, important bushland trees are badly affected, such as turpentines. One of the turpentines in Warrigal Road has died and several are heavily burdened. These trees are very close to Sheldon Forest, a vital bushland reserve with many turpentines that has a biobanking agreement to preserve it. So Spanish moss is becoming more of a problem, and we, as in STEP, and a lot of other people, want to stop it getting worse. We asked our members to send reports of sightings and produced a report. Robin Buchanan, an expert in bush care who did the report, gave a talk. The word got around, and it turns out that Spanish moss is a problem in most of the northern Sydney council areas. Already. They have been letterboxing houses where Spanish moss can be seen, or with Spanish moss in trees in nearby streets. We want to raise awareness and get landowners to remove it if they can. So far there seems to be little response from local residents. It would help a lot if council supported us by providing information on social media and newsletters and supporting action to remove it from gardens. After all, Spanish moss is listed as a weed by the Department of Primary Industry. There's a general biosecurity announcement to prevent, eliminate and minimise any biosecurity risk it poses. So so the community groups have been talking to all their councils, and they've all got plans to address it. Willoughby and Lane Cove councils have passed motions approving a whole list of actions to educate the community and take actions to remove it in parks and streets. This is a situation we hope NESROC can facilitate effective action as per recommendation E in your minute. So Ku-ring-gai Council is developing a weed action plan. We'd like to have a much higher profile in the community so it's more aware of it. And council action is focused on native trees as that is their priority. But Spanish moss is very prevalent on lots of non-native trees, so more action is needed. So that's it, really. So we're grateful.
We could just leave it there, Jill, if you don't mind. Yeah. But I'm happy for you to go and bring the Spanish moss up and show the councillors, if you like.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Wait, yes, sorry. Oh, sorry, she's coming back.
I know what it looks like. Yeah.
Oh, Jill, there's a couple of questions for you. So I'll start with Councillor Matt Devlin.
Yep. G'day, Jill. Thanks very much. And appreciate the work that Steve have done in producing the report earlier in 2025 on this. The understanding that I have is rather limited with relation to...
Sorry, I didn't hear.
My apologies. Understanding that this is an important ecological matter requiring attention, what simple actions can local residents, whilst council is preparing and readying itself to take action, what simple actions can local residents take to help reduce the spread of Spanish moss, particularly around properties with that urban interface on around bushlands?
So they can remove it.
Is it as simple as that? Gardens. Is there a spray program or anything like that?
Yeah, but a lot of it, I suppose, is pretty high up in trees, so it's not feasible in some cases without paying a lot of money to get people to remove it. Yeah, and I don't know what the council position is, but removing it from there's some in the street tree near you. I think it's a good idea to remove it, but I don't know if there's any legal issues with that.
I wasn't even aware that it was a weed until the STEP report earlier in the year. Yeah. I thought it was quite a pleasant thing to see hanging from streets, but upon reading it, generally changed my view on it. So thank you for that. You mentioned, and I appreciate you were pressed for time, but you mentioned towards the end there, as you were hurried, that there were some other councils. Are there any particular councils again in mention that there's any works that you can reference and we could be learning from?
Well, Hunters Hill Council actually did. They paid, I think it was about $10,000 to have some removed from trees, and with that, actually their contracts and their experiences being used by Ku-ring-gai Council to develop the action plan.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Jill. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor Devlin. Councillor Barbara Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jill, thank you so much for your presentation. I wasn't aware that this was not a good thing to have on the trees. In fact, my next door neighbour quite proudly gave us a whole bunch to put on our tree.
That happens a lot, yes.
Luckily, it died. So we're near Blackbutt Reserve,
Mhm.
so there's a lot around there. What can the council do? Obviously, you guys are doing quite a lot in that space. What can the council do in relation to communication? Because clearly people like me, just a normal resident, didn't know anything about it. What can we do?
Well, social media, I don't know how to get a permanent message out there, because social media will be there one week and gone the next. Facebook, I don't know what your experience is in communicating with residents in a way that's sort of more permanent. I know the website, you could have a page about it on the website. I know there's a page about weeds on the website. I think a fairly general one, so there could be a more specialised page. Actually, I think Willoughby Council actually has a dedicated page on their website.
They do. Councillor Indu Balachandran.
Thank you. Jill, this was very interesting actually for me to read. I was just curious, given your experience, how aware is the ordinary resident that it is an invasive weed?
Not very.
Not very. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's only if they're near the bush or they encounter people that have. Well, we do have a leaflet that we've been letterboxing, but I'm not sure how much response that's getting. People.
And I did have another question. Thank you. I was wondering that because I too thought it was a pretty thing. Do you have a sense of how much of it is on private property versus public land generally?
Oh, pretty.
No.
It's pretty equal. Oh, I haven't done a broad survey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay.
Our next speaker on GB4, the Youth Advisory Committee minutes of meeting Wednesday, the 12th of November, 2025, is Matthew Hayes speaking for the topic. Whenever you're ready, Matthew.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and council staff. Well, what a year it has been in the inaugural Youth Advisory Committee. Starting with the Youth Forum in February, with over 100 high school students from across the LGA in attendance, where we received a lot of great, honest, but important feedback on issues affecting them in the community. The three main issues we heard from young people was mental health and well-being, community connection and support, and accessible transport and mobility. We've been working over the past year on these matters through initiatives including Youth Week and school holiday activities at the Gordon and St Ives Youth Hubs, which includes the Healing Out Loud Festival, a festival during Mental Health Month to help to take steps on our wellbeing journeys. A trivia session called Nothing Beats a Jet 2 Holiday. I didn't come up with that name, I swear. An intergenerational workshop for young people and seniors to interact together with activities, which has been so successful, was sold out last time and we're doing another one in January. And many more activities and initiatives to help us form and execute the Youth Action Plan. It's been a great honour and privilege to work with Council as a member of the first Youth Advisory Committee and to work with the other members, including the chairperson, Angelina, Deputy Chair Millie, and other members, Josie, Jack, Nahal, Jai, Sophie, Amelie, Kay, Tyne, and Mitch, and with Lily, Ryan, Jin, and Simone, and the rest of our amazing youth services team this year. But there was still more work to be done to fully formulate everything a Youth Advisory Committee could do. There was quite limited time to formulate and execute initiatives because of the limited term, and there would not be a guarantee that a new committee would be able to continue most of the initiatives established this year. And the committee unanimously agreed to continue for another 12 months because of this. This also matches with the terms of the other advisory committees and with the mayoral term. However, I would recommend an adjustment of the meeting dates and times to make sure that all committee members can continue to participate without external pressures from school and work. I would also recommend reading the results of the survey written by community members on other ways the terms of references can be reworked to make the committee more effective, not just for next year, but for future committees, and council staff will be able to give more information on that. My first speech in this council was nearly 2 years ago, advocating for the establishment for this committee, and it's been great to see it grow and flourish over the past year and hopefully into the future. I hope that you will all continue to support the Youth Advisory Committee, and you are more than welcome to join us to observe our meetings next year. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Matt Devlin.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Matt, and to all of those who you've worked with on the Youth Advisory Committee this year. It's been good. I know that the Mayor and myself and on occasion some other councillors have joined, so thank you for having us. You noted that it was something you've advocated for a couple of years and that there wasn't enough time. Have you got an indication to what a couple of the significant priorities that would not necessarily be able to be addressed if council didn't proceed with extending the term?
There was definitely, so with accessible transport and mobility, there's quite a few projects that we're thinking of establishing next year that we wouldn't be able to proceed with if we weren't able to continue for another 12 months, and also continuing to enhance, to continue to improve some of the existing initiatives already. So it would definitely be beneficial to extend it for another 12 months.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Councillor Devlin. Our next item is GBH, which is Post-Exhibition of Revised Delivery Program, Resourcing Strategy and Application of a Special Rate Variation. We have 3 speakers, the first speaker being Rebecca McNamee, and I have you noted here, Rebecca is speaking against... Oh, whenever are you Rebecca? Yes, please. Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Rebecca.
Did you know that NIDA has a department solely responsible for running training for corporates in communication, negotiation, and presenting? And the reason I know that is because I work for them. My name is Rebecca McNamee, and I'm a writer and a director. Used to be an actor, and I also work for NIDA. And I guess the question is, why do some of Australia's biggest corporations and the state government and our federal government send their people to NIDA to learn to communicate? And it's because performing artists are really good at it. And they learn it through the process of acting. And it is these skills that make for excellent communication. And we share that. Now, I can't tell you the whole course right now in 3 minutes, but I can tell you that the things that we do learn in performing arts that we share with corporates are how to use our voice, how to pace, how to sound, how to be persuasive, how to use our bodies to tell a story, to be persuasive communicators. We also learn how to be generous when we're working with scene partners. We also learn to ask open questions. We learn to be brave. We learn to stand up, as the impressive Matthew just did, and speak on issues that matter to us. The performing arts is primarily not so you can become an actor. The performing arts is so that you can learn to be an excellent communicator. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. Tim Croft, currently VP of Regulatory Affairs at Nanosonics, one of Australia's biggest medical device companies. Lucinda Abood is Chief Partner at Five Capital, one of Australia's largest venture capitalist firms. She is a former CEO, a COO, and CFO. Naomi Wallace is a lead marketing at Salesforce. Katrina Gooding, is a maths teacher. Catherine Healy, a speech pathologist. What do all these people have in common? They are living big, bold, successful lives. They're excellent communicators. And they're some of my best friends from Sydney Youth Musical Theatre, the amateur musical theatre group I grew up in. So in this time when our young people are under threat more than ever before at not being able to communicate in person, I'm going to ask you to be part of the solution, to provide a safe space for our young people to learn these skills, to learn to be brave, to learn to talk to each other. And if funding Marion Street Theatre is just a small part of doing that, then I thank you, because we've got big problems ahead and you can help solve them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. It doesn't look like we have any questions for you, so thank you.
No, thank you.
Actually,
Okay. Councillor Balachandran has a late question.
That's okay.
That's right. Thank you very much. That was a very powerful presentation. You certainly made your point. I'm interested in your experience of the facilities available to young people in Ku-ring-gai, and in the absence of something like Marion Street Theatre, what do they do?
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, 15 years ago, my family and I tried to get Marion Street Theatre up and running again because of a complete lack of availability. The Grenhaug Theatre is actually at UTS, which is where one of the places that Sydney Youth Musical Theatre used to perform, but it hasn't been readily available for many, many years and was very run down. So to be completely honest, I'm not completely across this area specifically, but my understanding at this point is that I don't know that you have any theatres. Wendy, none. Like none. And if you compare that to Willoughby or even Hornsby, so Sydney Youth Musical Theatre is based in Hornsby, and they actually, for the last maybe 15 years, have had a relationship with Hornsby RSL to provide their venue. But I think temporarily, while there's renovations happening, they are going to the Greenhalgh. But outside of that, Ku-ring-gai doesn't provide anything.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, still on GBA, is Wendy Blaxland, representing Marion Street Theatre Action, and Wendy will be speaking for.
It's one of those things where it's a bit for and a bit against.
That's okay.
Commenting. Mayor, councillors, staff, members of the public. I represent the Marion Street Theatre Action Group. Councillors, you will vote on GB8 about how our community spends our money. Congratulations on the careful background work. To live safely together, money must first fund the essentials: renewing stormwater drains, repairing potholes, building footpaths. We're glad you have the courage to lead the community like this, responsibly. But there are just 2 items left out of this second attempt to show what we value in our theatre: Marion Street Theatre and anything else to do with culture. Ku-ring-gai is one of Sydney's richest municipalities, one of the best educated, one where over 50% of respondents at least somewhat support having our own theatre. You imply that it is not worth investing in our culture: music, theatre, dance, visual arts, writing. This is woefully short-sighted. The Sydney Herald last weekend looked at the value of heritage. It compared Melbourne, which has preserved its built heritage, to Sydney, where so much has been destroyed. We are glad to see NM1 about refreshing Ku-ring-gai's own heritage policy. But what about our cultural heritage? This time of year, just think about what artists in all fields contribute to Christmas. Carols, or your own favourite Christmas songs, All I Want for Christmas, films, Love Actually, Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Raymond Briggs' The Snowman. What are your favourites? Who designs our Christmas cards? Writes the stories about donating to buy a goat or provide a child with a bicycle to get to school? Who creates the treasured ornaments that come out just once a year? Artists. Our energetic Marion Street Theatre Action Group is working to bring the space at Marion Street Theatre alive again so artists can thrive here. During 2025, we continued showcasing the arts. We hosted one celebration of Ku-ring-gai performing arts, helped at another. We campaigned to allocate rates money to help fund the renovations. We have helped bring together different levels of government to discuss how to do this. So if you put up a Christmas tree, think about the artists and craftspeople who made or designed those glass balls, the tinsel, the lights, who wrote the books you enjoy reading. We will see you again next year and see what we can accomplish together. And when you vote on how to spend the money we all contribute, please remember the arts.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, our next speaker, still on the same item, GB8, but our last speaker on that item is Cheryl Chateau, who will be speaking for.
It's a precipitous path to the microphone. Madam Mayor, councillors, friends and residents, senior staff. It's been a rotten year, really. You know, when I left council in 2021, I left it in good shape in that we had a DA for Marion Street, which is never not eventuated. That's 4 years ago. I'm bitterly disappointed, so I thought I'd let you know that, in case you hadn't guessed already. I think that the research that you've conducted has been thorough. I don't blame you for that at all. It just seems to me that that the odds were stacked against us from the beginning. To have the Marion Street Theatre as part of option 4, the very last on the list, I think was an insult. However, Christmas is coming, so I thought I'd say Happy Christmas to Ku-ring-gai Council and councillors. I have many happy memories of being here, and that's all I really did to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Our next item is GB17, post-exhibition planning proposals 77 Kulgoa Road, Pymble, and we have David Stone speaking against. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in relation to the planning proposal at 77 Kulgoa Road. There are a range of issues that were raised as part of the public exhibition of this proposal, which I don't believe have been addressed in Council's report. However, I'll speak to just one of these issues tonight. I would primarily like councillors to consider the potential impact of the proposal on tree canopy, particularly in the context of Council's Todd alternative plan, where one of the key aims was to protect tree canopy. The key question becomes here, for the sake of potentially one additional dwelling, when 20,000 have effectively just been approved under the top alternative, are we putting even more of our tree canopy at risk, especially in an area identified as containing critically endangered ecological communities? Should we not apply some caution here? Why not let the dust settle on the top alternative and better understand its impacts before putting additional tree canopy at risk for just one additional dwelling? I will go further and suggest that the risks here are actually far greater than what is conveyed in the reporting that is presented to Council for consideration. The key trees on this property are in direct conflict with the proposed stormwater line required to service the site. With the variable and steep surface topography, as many of you would have observed during your site visit, and most likely a rocky subsurface, to suggest that a stormwater line can simply be drilled underneath and stormwater pits excavated with no potential impact on significant trees simply doesn't pass the pub test, at least not in a pub full of engineers. To properly understand the risks here, I suggest councillors should seek further advice from council's engineers. It's unclear whether the proposal has been run past council's engineering department at this point, but I suggest this needs to happen. And this needs to happen in relation to both the proposal at 77 Colgoa Road and also, just as importantly, the connection through 18 Bristol Avenue, which also has significant trees and doesn't appear to be being assessed at all. I would happily provide councillors with questions that should be asked to council officers. These are also largely present in submissions I made as part of the public exhibition process. However, as I said at the start, it's somewhat disappointing that a lot of those questions and issues have been largely ignored from my perspective. I don't believe these questions are requesting detail that can be deferred to a development application. It is fundamental to a planning proposal to demonstrate that a site can be serviced. And these questions need to be answered to demonstrate the site can be serviced without significant impacts to the tree canopy. It should take 10 minutes for a stormwater engineer to respond to these questions. So I urge councillors to ask for some responses in this to these matters.
Okay, I've just got one question for you. Looks like it's from Councillor Matt Devlin, potentially two.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. G'day, David. Thanks for expressing your thoughts on the planning proposal there at 77 Colgoa. Firstly, have you made submissions to council on this in writing prior to tonight?
Yes,
Yeah.
I made a submission to when it went on public exhibition.
Right.
I made a
So
submission
I'm just countering that. Sorry, I'm just gauging that that's occurred. So the questions that you just offered to furnish councillors with, they've already been put to council staff.
They have been written and put to council staff.
And you
yes.
received a response or anything like that?
Well, from my perspective, there is no response. There is a response in council's report. It doesn't address any of the issues.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen them myself. More than happy to take those on notice if you want to send them through. I'm sure my colleagues would appreciate them as well. Just a quick one though. When I was having a look at this, the neighbouring site or the neighbouring lot's already zoned R2, and shares pretty similar characteristics to the lot in question. What do you see, other than the tree canopy, which I've made a couple of notes here on, what do you see the strongest reason for maintaining the different zoning for a single site might be?
So interestingly, and this is something that also got raised in the submission, is that yes, on one side you have a property that is similar, and in theory to I think there's two directions where it's somewhat similar, and two directions where it's more environmentally and plenty of trees. So I think it's misleading to suggest that, oh, look, this is just similar to the adjacent lot, because there are at least two other lots that it's not, and are consistent with the C4 zoning. So yeah, from that perspective, I don't see it. Yes, it would be consistent on one side, but it's not consistent on the other sides.
Okay, thanks very much, David, and I look forward to those submissions. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Indu Balachandran, you're next for questions.
Thanks, David. I was also going to ask for a copy of your questions just to have a look at. I noticed you said you put in a submission and council has responded to them. I was just skimming through some of the responses. And I suppose the argument is if the council staff say that certain details can be assessed through the DA process, and you're arguing that they're not, I think that the general principle I'm reading in the notes is that where the design is not appropriate for servicing or engineering, council will require an alternate design. Can you just speak to your thoughts on that response?
So my understanding of the planning proposals process, it is it is required by the proponent to demonstrate that a site can be serviced. It's pretty simple, which includes typical things like water, sewer, but also includes stormwater. In this case, the stormwater plan that has been put forward has flaws and holes through it all over the place. It cannot be constructed, and I would love council's engineer to review and they can confirm or otherwise. I can't see that that's happened. But there isn't a proposal that is viable to service this site from a stormwater perspective.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Councillor Barbara Wood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. David, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for taking the time to put in the submission. Are you aware if there are other residents who are also of the same view as yourself?
As far as I'm aware, all the residents around are against. I haven't confirmed that verbally with them. I know there is a written submission that's on the agenda for tonight. I'm not sure what happens with that one if it's available. But yeah, so my understanding is all the residents around are also against them.
All right, thank you. I will take the time to read their submissions as well. Thank you for being here.
Okay, that's all for the questions. Thank you, David. Our next item is NM1, Refreshing Ku-ring-gai's 2021 Heritage Strategy. We just have one speaker, Cheryl Chateau, speaking for. Whenever you're ready, Cheryl.
Madam Mayor, councillors, senior staff and residents. I come here tonight to congratulate councillors Ballachandran and councillor and you, Madam Mayor. I was going to call you Councillor Mayor Kay, for this refreshing of Ku-ring-gai's heritage strategy, this notion of motion to support them. It was a very, very opportune time to do this, and I congratulate you. It's good to see that you use the state government's definition of heritage. They seem to be wanting to make it a more organic description. In which case, we're looking not just at buildings, we're looking at people, their stories, and their everyday usage. We are all part of heritage. And I think one of the things that's happened with Marion Street Theatre is that people have just been looking at it as a building, not as somewhere where people grow and learn and dance and contribute to the community. These are the stories that we grow up with. This is who we are. This is what we take with us every day. And I just think supporting heritage in this way is a great leap forward, both for the state government and I think for Ku-ring-gai, if you can work along the same lines. I think that would be wonderful. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you, Cheryl. Merry Christmas if we don't see you. Our next speaker is NM2, which is Jill Green. We have Matthew Hayes also, both speaking for planning for Turramurra Town Centre, but I'll call on Jill Green first, representing STEP. Wherever you are, Jill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Actually, I'm representing myself, not Steph.
Oh,
So it's,
okay. We'll get that changed.
Yeah, the form didn't allow you to have two
Oh,
options. So when I lived all my life, that's over 70 years in Turramurra, in that time, I have to say it's barely changed, except the traffic along the Pacific Highway is getting much worse. There's still very little life and vibrancy within the town centre. You go wander around the street in the middle of the day, there's hardly anybody about. So even though there's so many apartments nearby, they're just, where are all the people that are living near Turramurra? There's a little bit of life in the evening in Kipling's and at the bottom of Raheny Street and the Thai restaurant. And then the unfortunate Holy Crop is squeezed into this narrow laneway, and it could be in a much better environment than it is at the moment. So what is needed to attract people to Turramurra? I agree that the whole of the town centre plan is, a whole of town centre plan is badly needed. Actually, what was the outcome of the Activate Turramurra initiative? We have pavements and laneways with faded murals and a few planter boxes. That seems to be all that I'm aware of. And what happened to the plans to improve traffic movements? I recall there was a plan to have traffic lights at the top of Turramurra Avenue and make Raheny Street one way, and some sort of better link between the two. Maybe lights allowing right-hand turns out of Turramurra Avenue. But if that happens, Turramurra Avenue would be even more busy than it is now. It's the street that's wide, it's barely wide enough to allow two cars to pass. Traffic banks up behind cars waiting to get onto the Pacific Highway. And yet there's major apartment buildings still being built on Turramurra Avenue, and there's an apartment complex under the State Significant Development Pathway in Nulla Nulla Street. It's a dead-end street, but there's going to be another 147 cars needing to get into Nulla Nulla Street. So I agree that a new planning study is badly needed for Turramurra. Must include a traffic plan, not just along the Pacific Highway. Must include Raheny Street and Turramurra Avenue. That part seems to be neglected in the thoughts. And a bridge over the railway at the end of Ray Street would remove a lot of traffic entering the highway from Raheny Street for a short trip to Coles, which is pretty frustrating actually when you have to queue up for so long. Some pedestrians also get a raw deal in Turramurra. There appears to be no plans to improve movement in and around the town centre. Could there be, I don't know how it's all going to be solved, could there be an overpass over the highway from the new apartment building at the top of Kissing Point Road? That should not be just another residential area that's isolated. Also, I don't know what's happening in Hillview. It's maybe you could put in a community centre or a small theatre or something like that, some better community facilities somewhere. So thank you, everybody.
Okay. Just a question from Councillor Matt Devlin for you, Jill.
Thanks again, Jill. I must say that everything you've just noted is a repeated sentiment from every resident in Turramurra and around the Warrawee Valley every time that that Turramurra Town Centre is brought up in conversation. You've mentioned issues like traffic on local residential streets with potential developments in progress, or at least at that planning level. What are your thoughts around increased density in Turramurra? We've seen it right across the Sydney Metro. We've seen it thrust upon us without too much choice in the lower half of the LGA. You've noted concern around additional vehicles in small residential streets. Is it that you're fearful of more cars, or is it the more people, or accepting of development more broadly?
Well, I think the plans for the main town centre over the Coles area, that seems an ideal place to have high density development, and as well as hopefully a nice plaza area where people can congregate with plenty of trees, I hope.
That'll be the plan. Yeah.
And even on the other side, on the Raheny side, there's room there for I'm not sure how much room there is for more density on that side. Maybe more just maybe shop top housing. I think it's. I'm not against any development in the centre of Turramurra that will increase the number of residents.
Terrific.
But
Thanks
they
very
need
much,
to
Stuart.
encourage people to walk to it everywhere instead of driving. Yes.
Thank you, and thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Martin Smith, one more question for you, Jill, if you don't mind.
Hi, how you going? I was just wondering, were you aware that Coles is in the process of putting together a proposal on that whole site, of the car park and with some community facilities at the moment?
Been talking about it for years. I know that there's plans, but I don't know what stage
No,
it's
but
at.
I mean, as in Coles were actually looking at doing it themselves.
Well, no.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Our next speaker is Matthew Hayes, and also speaking for Planning for Turramurra Town Centre.
Hang on, I'm going to need to bring this all the way up. Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and council staff again. Throughout my time studying urban planning as a hobby and through my social media account, Ahead Matthew Awesome, I've always tried to not get bogged down by what a place or a situation is like right now, but what it can be with the right project. One of the first projects I studied as a kid was the Activate Turramurra project. It was quite a personal project to me. A lot of the councillor candidates in Commonala would be aware of that. You know, being in my local community where I grew up for my whole life and seeing my local town centre transforming from a place where my parents wouldn't allow for me to walk through the town centre without having my hand held on to because of the risk of being run over, with outdated community facilities to a walkable town centre with modern facilities and a place that you would want to hang out in, play in the park, study in the library, have a coffee with friends. It was a dream come true. And I fell in love with urban renewal thanks to that project. And I was excited for what was coming up and the real world difference it would make to the everyday lives of people in our community. Construction starting in 2019 and opening in 2020. But unfortunately got held back. And over 12 years since the Activate Turramurra Festival, not that much has happened. And the facilities in the town centre now are even less appropriate than they were back then. With the social media ban coming up in about 4 hours' time, and to help reduce traffic pollution and to attract all of the community back to our town centres rather than going off to Chatswood or Macquarie Park, it's important that we start looking at upgrading our town centres for the needs of the 2020s, not of the 1960s or the 2010s. I dream of a Turramurra with safer crossings of the Pacific Highway, which will encourage people to walk and cycle instead of driving, that will significantly decrease the amount of injuries and deaths on the Pacific Highway right now. I dream of a Turramurra with a library which has modern study spaces, which matches what people are wanting to use our libraries for right now, with opening hours that match when people want to use the library, which will help out a lot of our residents who are students, self-employed, live in large, loud families with no study spaces in their homes, and many more people. I dream of a Turramurra with community halls and spaces for new community organisations and activities currently not available to the western side of Ku-ring-gai. Upgrades to the supermarkets in Turramurra and moving our parks to areas away from the highway with amenities appropriate for residents now will also help. Having appropriate spaces near our railway stations to shop, visit, explore, hang out with friends is vital for the future of our communities, and it is best for council to be able to, with local consultation, be in charge of these developments to ensure that local amenity needs are met. This will be my last speech in the chambers for the year, and presumably, unless there's any other ideas, as Young Citizen of the Year for 2025. So I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and thank you again. Thank you to everyone for your continued support of the work that I do, and to the people of Ku-ring-gai. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Matt Devlin, do you have
Thanks,
a question?
Madam Mayor. Matt, firstly, thanks for all that you do, and Merry Christmas to you and your family. But one of the other areas that I've noticed that you've got quite a passion for is with youth and disability access, particularly around reliable public transport. I know we've got a heavy rail corridor and a bus interchange there at Turramurra, but that's trying to serve a pretty large portion, about 40% of the LGA. For someone who's got a passion in public transport such as yourself, how well do you feel that our interchange at Turramurra really serves not just the broader community, but those with a disability?
At the moment, thank you so much again, Councillor Devlin, for your question. At the moment, not, definitely not, definitely not in a satisfactory way, especially for people trying to walk from the station, especially from the southern side of the highway. It's quite difficult at the moment crossing through the highway. Before the recent timetable changes in October last year, the trains were actually more frequent than the crossing times through there to get to the other side. So definitely having a look at other ways of being able to cross the highway, especially now with the Hillview being considered to be redeveloped. There's definitely a great opportunity through there for a potential underpass using the railway line. That would require negotiations with the state government, and definitely better access from the station to the bus terminal. At the moment, there's a lot of difficulties at the moment, especially with that steep hill between the bus interchange and the train station. I know I get a lot of people around the community, especially from the northern side of Turramurra, who use in surrounding suburbs that use those buses trying to get through that section. It's definitely quite difficult. So definitely some improvements.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. But I also wanted to say thank you for being an active participant and a voice in our public forums. So thank you. It means a lot to us at Council to be able to hear from a voice that represents you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we will now move on to general business. So we will start with David Lane, whose topic is Council Alternative Housing Scheme.
So before my 3 minutes start, I want to wish everybody in the chamber, all the councillors, the mayor, and the Ku-ring-gai staff all the best for my lovely wife Marguerite and everyone in the audience. Happy holidays. May 2026 bring you all the expectations and joy that a new year has, and may you have a beautiful and peaceful holiday season with both your family, friends, and loved ones. So also before I start, there's correspondence is being handed out to you. What I'm going to talk about is so in-depth that I can't get it done in 3 minutes, but I will do my best. But that correspondence between myself and council actually encapsulates what you need to know. So with all of those preliminary requirements out of the way, let's start. Good evening, Councillor and Mayor. I've lived in Ku-ring-gai for 35 years, and I've supported this council during all that time. 25 years ago, this council body went to the community and asked for the heritage stock to be replenished. I, in good faith, volunteered my house, and it was listed at that time. Today, council is under different pressure by the state government to basically increase the housing supply. Congratulations on having your alternative housing scheme accepted. I also am trying to do the right thing because I'm trying to remove a planning contradiction because my heritage house has been rezoned R4 as high density, and I'm doing the right thing by trying to delist it. But unlike the listing process, which cost me no time and only required me to write a 2-page document, the delisting process, the full administrative and financial on the homeowner, despite comments by the mayor and also comments by Minister Scully. So I've already paid thousands of dollars to do a new heritage assessment. I've also paid a town planner to do a planning application. I'm now being asked by council to give you $15,000, but yet when I ask the basic questions about what I need to know in order to complete the planning application correctly, I'm told pay the fee and just pay the fee. So what this goes to is the transparency problem that you guys discussed in your last council meeting. Here I have in my hand 2 heritage reports to give you an example. This one done by council 26 years ago, which is 8 pages long, did not assess the inside of the house, has no history on the house. This one, which is completely comprehensive, done by myself and a certified person who worked with your heritage people at the state heritage thing, which has a complete history of the house from the time it was built to yesterday. But yet council can't tell me which one of these they're going to rely on in applying my planning application. But it gets better. So The second thing is, before we even discuss the heritage merit of the house, council says we need to discuss what the strategic intent is. Well, unless you're living under a rock, the strategic intent is to build more housing so that there's more places, which drives the price down. I'm not going to debate whether that's a good or bad policy. That's the state government and the federal government's policy. So council believes the best way to do that under their alternative housing scheme is transfer development rights. However, if you talk to any developers, and I've talked to 5 as recently as 3 hours ago, and all of them will dismiss that out of hand. Delisting is the most easiest way to go through it. So again, this is opinion versus fact, which is back to this, opinion versus fact. It's not objectively based. So this problem crystallizes to this, which is I'm being asked to pay $15,000 on blind faith with no assessment criteria, no transparency, no objective framework, no indication of the process, and even whether the process is even required. Why? Because the same council passed on the 5th of June, 2025, a motion that isolated properties, including mine, under the alternative housing scheme would be reviewed. And therefore, why am I doing this? Are you going to do it? I'm saving you guys time. I've done the PA, I've done the heritage report, but council won't tell me what's the scope of the review, who's conducting the review, will the heritage owners of the houses even be consulted, and is delisting part of that review? So, in summary, and I am coming to the conclusion, the call to action tonight is very simple, which is I believe the council should either significantly waive or reduce the $15,000 planning fee, given that the contradiction between my house being a heritage listed and being rezoned into an R4 high density zone is a council problem and was not created by me. Secondly, in order for me to prepare an acceptable planning application for council, I need written confirmation of 1, which heritage report will you be relying on? 2, what happens when you have conflicting evidence, when 2 experts tell you 2 different things? How do you resolve that conflict? And 3, on your motion of the 5th of June 2025, who, when, where, how will those isolated properties be reassessed, and whether or not what I'm doing is even required? So, to summarize, I understand that delisting is not council's preferred outcome. That's been made very clear to me. But please understand this. Rezoning my house to R4 was not my preferred outcome. In fact, rezoning all of HCA 39 Robert Street and all of the residents, some of whom are sitting here now, was not their preferred outcome. So what I'd like you to do is take those call to actions and action them so that we can move on. The reality is, if council really believed my house was heritage worthy, like Elizabeth Farm or the Opera House, then why would you have rezoned it to R4? Thank you very much, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you, David. No questions for you this evening. Our next speaker is David Tyndale, speaking on heritage and development.
Mayor, councillors, staff, community. First of all, apologies, I haven't been to NIDA. Second of all, I'd just like to reflect on David's statement there that it's not his preferred scenario that we're talking about. Most certainly is not my preferred scenario either. It's been 18 months since my first public forum where I implored council to protect heritage owners from being surrounded by apartments under transport-oriented development. After 18 months of very considerable effort from all parties, I'm disappointed to observe that now it's council threatening us with the same fate. Council have taken their heritage problem and neatly switched it to become the heritage owners' problem. I live in an area that's been rezoned by council to R4, but my house, also R4, is to remain a local heritage item, the only one on the street. We constitute around 3% of the rezoned area on Khartoum Avenue. To leave one old house standing amid the apartments is an absurd planning outcome. If council sees fit to create R4 zones to increase density, they must accept that this is not compatible with heritage. The heritage conservation area across the street from me, this is the Robert Street area that David's been speaking of, is zoned for up to 29-metre buildings, but will remain HCA, which is simply nonsensical. Heritage owners in rezoned areas have been accorded transferable development rights, but there's a fundamental issue with this in that developers are required to incorporate the heritage item in order to access the additional floor space. There's the rub. In the great majority of cases, they simply won't. Developers don't want to incorporate heritage. In Director Watson's words, it's difficult and expensive. Moreover, it leaves them with ongoing custodianship of a heritage item, and they simply won't do it. Ask them. I have. CPDM, the developer for 3 to 9 Park Avenue, kindly provided me with a plan of their vision of the block bounded by Park Avenue and Khartoum Avenue, and it shows the 3 isolated heritage houses remaining, with the rest as apartments. Council's own artists' impressions show the same thing. Refer to the Gordon document of Council's preferred scenario. Isolated heritage items surrounded by apartments. I would like to see an alternative implementation of development rights, and I've handed that round if you manage to get a copy of that flowchart, where the developer is required to purchase the heritage item, receives the additional floor space ratio, and then is able to either incorporate the heritage item in their development or to sell it as a known isolated item. This is a win-win. Council keeps the heritage, state achieves their density, developers get the uplift and a free house to sell, and heritage owners are not left high and dry. Many councillors have observed that council's decision over their preferred scenario will create winners and losers. As a heritage owner, taxpayer, ratepayer and active member of the Ku-ring-gai community, I expect implementation of solutions that will provide acceptable outcomes for all of us. Thank you.
Looks like a question from Councillor Indu Balachandran. David, if you're okay with that.
Thank you, David, for speaking tonight. I was just looking at your flowchart and trying to understand. The critical word I just want to clarify is compulsorily. That is different to what it is now. Is that right? That developers compulsory acquire.
The difference between it, the difference between this scenario, there are 2. One is that in the event where a developer wants to develop a site that is indicated as R4, so therefore I guess the developer would assume that was reasonable to develop on that, and that was adjacent to a heritage item, that heritage item must be purchased as part of the package. But yeah, the second and more telling difference there is the reason development rights won't work as they are is in order for a developer to access that floor space ratio, they must incorporate that property. It won't happen. It won't.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, David.
Thanks all.
That's it, thank you. Our next speaker is Wendy Budsland, representing Marion Street Theatre Action this time of year. Okay, just you. Okay, that's fine. We will change that. Thank you.
Time to pause. Think of the past year, the coming new year. I want to thank you all for your patience, your courtesy, and your hard work this year. And because I'm a writer, I'm giving you a couple of poems. The first is called Memory Tree. That's why we bring out the same battered tree each year, haul down the sturdy cardboard box of decorations, and take our time to unwrap memories. The familiar tree has lost more plastic needles. A newish string of lights assures dependability, and the cardboard box of memories waits there patiently. Every angel with a damaged wing brings a rush of warmth and knowledge that despite the battering that life has given us, we're gathering again to build a tree of memories, more precious since another year has passed. Look here, the fragile blue glass ball brought half a lifetime past and half a world away. The delicate lace snowflakes ignoring the summer heat, Defiant angels missing a hand or wing take their rightful place again. We hold our breath as the topmost angel crowns the tree. Her lacy gown is spread, her porcelain smile intact. And like every year, when the switch is flicked, we gasp as a galaxy of stars illuminates the dark. I always like, though, to go for another point of view and think of the small creatures we share our lives with and how they fit in with this time of year. So this poem is called Australian Christmas. Our jacaranda tree has set deep purple candles on its new green leaves. Cicadas are thrumming a deep and rhythmic bass behind a carol from the joyous throats of frogs. The seeding parsley holds up great white heads of delicate snowflakes shivering in the breeze. And on the old wooden table over there, small ants, in their best and rain-washed gleaming black, are scurrying to lay in festive fare and carefully carrying swaddled infants in their cradles. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. That was a nice way to end the year. Thank you. Our last speaker for this evening is Natalie Boyd, and the topic is heritage housing in Ku-ring-gai.
Thank you, Mayor. As David flagged, it has been 2 years that we've been at this, and I feel like a frequent flyer. Sorry, is that better? Sorry, I was just saying it's been 2 years we've been talking about this, so I feel like a frequent flyer here at Council. Good evening, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak again. My name's Natalie Boyd, and I speak as one of the hundreds of heritage homeowners across Ku-ring-gai. We're the custodians of the very heritage character that this council so proudly promotes. Our homes, our investment, and our goodwill are what give Ku-ring-gai its identity. And yet, the impacts of Council's newly announced housing scenario on our homes remains completely unexplained. Council has proclaimed, huzzah, heritage has been saved, well, perhaps without the huzzah. But on our read, what you really mean is that heritage has been isolated. If it was saved, the heritage context would be maintained, and I'm particularly talking about Gordon and Linfield. If it was saved, the heritage context would be maintained, the context that gives these houses their life, their meaning, their reason for being what and how they were designed. These homes were designed to be in garden suburbs, providing indoor and outdoor amenity where neighbours are not visible but still accessible, where large gardens are private and you walk next door to see your neighbour. Without that context, these houses are no longer fit for purpose. Ironically, this isolation perfectly delivers the outcome that Council's own anti-planning campaign railed against: small, single-storey houses surrounded by overwhelming development. I know that at least one councillor is of the view that heritage homeowners are crying poor. Although I heartily disagree, as clearly and objectively we are simply asking for a fair go, on reflection on those comments, even if heritage owners were crying poor, that actually should be no surprise. Heritage homeowners have for decades been individually and personally responsible for maintaining the heritage values that Ku-ring-gai Council, councillors and local lobby groups are so proud of. Heritage owners pay rates, shoulder personal financial responsibility and have upheld Ku-ring-gai's celebrated heritage values for decades. We heritage homeowners invest our time, our own effort and our own money into creating and maintaining Ku-ring-gai's heritage values, but we're currently in the dark. After not only hours, but weeks, months, in fact 2 years of this, we are still all of that time sending emails, trying to have meetings, trying to have conversations, we're still none the wiser. We have no clarity regarding how Council plans to direct, and you are directing, our future. And it is so murky. Council's preferred scenario will affect our property rights, our planning pathways and the long-term viability of heritage homes in our area. As a major stakeholder group, Again, we want to be in conversation with council. We're a major stakeholder and council continues to not deny us a seat at the table. Having said that, I have with pleasure read tonight the proposal that the heritage strategy be reviewed, and part of that include consultation with heritage homeowners. Fabulous. Thank you, councillors, for promoting that. Council has a long and well-established practice of running structured consultation forums with other stakeholders, planning industry briefings for developers, redevelopment meetings with commercial landowners, master plan workshops with major landowners, early briefings for institutional landowners, and regular forums for sporting groups and environmental volunteers. So council clearly can and regularly does engage directly with affected stakeholders. So for the third time at this podium, well, probably the fourth or fifth, but for the third time that I've asked this, I respectfully request that council formally convene a Heritage Homeowners Forum, a session that allows homeowners to understand the impacts of the new housing scenario on heritage listed homes. My heritage home is now in the town centre. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. I'd love to know. We want to obtain clear information about pathways. We want to hear directly from planners and heritage staff, not through rumours, not through conflicting messages, not through comparing notes with each other about little glimmers of information that we may have gleaned from developers or councillors, or reading something in the media, or hearing something on the street. This is how heritage homeowners are trying to plan their future. It's simply not okay. This request is not adversarial. In fact, as I said, it aligns with the notice of motion that's been put to council. It's fair, practical, and entirely consistent with council's own engagement practices. Councillors, you have very proudly promoted your perceived win in getting your preferred scenario accepted. So now we are asking you to share with us what we are clearly missing. We also want this scenario to be a win. We absolutely do. But we're missing something. We must be, because at the moment we can't see it. So please help us to understand why it is a win and why we should be excited. If it's so good, please stand by it and explain it so that heritage homeowners, those who are directly impacted by it, can positively engage in the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Happy to take any questions.
No, there doesn't look like there's any questions for you. Okay. Thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's public forum. The webcast of this forum will be published to Council's website tomorrow. The Council meeting will be held at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, and you are encouraged to attend in person or view the live web stream via the Council's website. I encourage you to continue to stay engaged with Council and share your feedback. So thank you again for your participation. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Unless I see you at next week's Council meeting, I declare the public forum closed at 8:13. Thank you.